what is the secret to healthy teeth and gums? Give us the recommendations, Elwin.
Okay, so in general, I'll do first and then I'll do teeth and gums one at a time, okay? So in general, cleanliness, right? Electric toothbrush is better than a normal toothbrush. Soft head is fine. Not like really pushing and digging is great. No one's telling you to really go for it, like in terms of really digging. In fact, what I've been taught about this is that the toothbrush, the main thing that you want to do with your electric toothbrush is go in between the teeth and the gums. So it's way less important that you're rubbing the toothbrush all over your teeth. It's much more important that you're getting that line between the two, because that, the vast majority of the time, is where the foods, the pieces, the fragments of food are going to get stuck, and then the infection is going to start to proliferate. So toothbrush is merely like, it's a cursory movement over your teeth, but it's really for that line between the tooth and gums. I personally recommend doing it after every meal, or at least anything that's acidic or anything that's sugary. So even if I were to drink water with lemon juice, not that I do, but even that, I would brush my teeth after that or do the other stuff that I'm talking about. Unless, of course, you have ample, voluminous alkaline saliva, in which case it's fine. It doesn't matter. But if you don't, then you need to have a supplement that. You need a facsimile of that. You need something to go in there and alkalize it manually because your body is not up to doing it itself. So doing some kind of alkaline mineral cleansing after consuming sugar or acids is really important. Cleaning in between the teeth is absolutely crucial. Interdental brushes are really where it's at. Floss is so 20th century, right? 21st century. And you got to get different sizes, right? This is what I was taught that got me from chronic, keep having cavities and keep having worse and worse gum disease to no more cavities, gum disease in remission is this. So everything that I'm saying to you now. So interdental brushes. It depends on maybe if your teeth are just uniformly crowded, maybe you just need like a small brush for every one. For me, it's like between some of the teeth, there's like a big gap and some of the teeth, there's a small gap. So I have to have all these different sizes and I need to go in there with the right size one. And it's got to be at least once a day. There's not something that anyone wants to hear. It's a goddamn hassle. It's painful. It's unpleasant. But you have to do it, and you have to do it at least once a day. And you have to get in there and make sure it doesn't. Keep doing it, and then you haven't really got anywhere until there's no bleeding, even when you do it vigorously. Well, the other interesting things that I heard from the hygienist, which really helped me turn things around, was your gums should be as tough as the soles of your feet. Meaning, if you get a little metal pointy thing and you accidentally stab them, they shouldn't bleed. In the same way as you get a little metal pointy, you know what I mean, the interdental brushes, right? If you were to poke the interdental brush on the sole of your foot, it's not going to bleed. And similarly, if you accidentally poke the interdental brush into your gum, it shouldn't bleed. And so if it does, that's a sign of inflammation. And that means there's some infection there. Now, I remember, and this is something I was taught even longer ago, before I really resolved the situation, I remember I had some pain in somewhere, and they said, we don't have any appointments available, but you know what you need to do? Just dig in there. So there's the kind of not toothbrushes, but the little toothbrushes, with a little brush with a pointy head. I don't know what they're called. A dental brush, I think maybe they're called over here, but probably different in America again. But these little pointy toothbrushes, and you basically just get in there and you dig in there, especially if it's sore or if it's bleeding or whatever, and you make it bleed as much as possible. Sounds crazy. Why on earth would you do that? Because what they say is it's disturbing the area of infection. And then the blood, even though it's not nice, it's flushing the infection out. And then you brush and you do your alkaline minerals and whatnot. And then you keep doing that until it stops bleeding. And you do that for everywhere that you have that issue. And so, as I said, you kind of actually want the gums to recede back to the line of the bone of the jaw. You do not want any pockets. It's the pockets of the gums that cause the really serious issues. So you get into those pockets with the interdental brushes and you break it up and it will bleed, and you keep doing it. And then if you do it for a while and you do the other stuff I'm talking about, it will stop bleeding and it will not be difficult. It will not be painful. It will be nothing. You just get in there, you'll dig in there, and it'll be about as painful, difficult as doing it on the sole of your foot. And you can see as well, like your gums will go from being red if they're inflamed to being like a light pinky kind of color, which is what they're supposed to be. So that's in terms of hygiene. The other thing I already talked about, which is the remineralizing, right? So also, I personally don't use that remineralizing toothpaste to clean my teeth. All right, so let's talk about cleaning. I don't like the fluoride toothpaste, but I actually don't like most of the alternative ones either. The fluoride ones, they tend to leave your teeth feeling quite clean, but then you've also poisoned yourself a bit with fluoride. Most of the alternative ones, like, they don't really leave your teeth feeling clean. I really like this brand called Uncle Harry's. It's basically a combination of calcium carbonate, which is a super alkaline mineral, bentonite clay, which is an absorber of toxicity. We talked about that in the detox episode. Colloidal silver. Silver is a killer of most organisms. And then it's a bunch of different essential oils, all of which have a strong antiseptic, killing of pathogen kind of action to various degrees. Things like cinnamon, mustard, mint. I can't remember all of them. Clove oil, all of those oils that are good at killing them. And that's it. And I like it. It feels like a real toothpaste. It leaves your mouth feeling really clean. And again, as I say, even though I haven't got great oral health, every dental professional is surprised at how good it is, considering the gum disease I used to have. So it's probably as good as it's going to get. And I never tell them I use this toothpaste, not fluoride one, because you know what doctors are like. Like, you literally, they hear all the time, right? I followed this diet and I lost 50 pounds. I go to the doctor and he goes, you can't follow that diet. It's extreme. And then you go back to your old diet and you gain the weight again. So I don't want to do the dental equivalent of that. But I use that to clean the Uncle Harry's one. There's different flavors. I like the cinnamon one. I think they also have aniseed and several types of mint. Most people just like mint because that's what they're used to. And then I use like a remineralizing one in addition to that. I might do that, as I say, if I just have a drink and they don't really need brushing, there's no food to remove. Or I might just do it afterwards or last thing at night or something like that. But get some kind of remineralizing toothpaste in there as well. And that's dental hygiene in a nutshell. Some people like the water pick to get in there. I think that's good in addition, but I think that's more for people who have dentures and like a situation where you can't get into there with the interdental brushes because it's not as powerful as the interdental brushes. If people like it, then great. But I would say it's just not as effective as the interdental brushes. And so the only reason you would use it is because maybe you've just had implants or you've got dentures or something where an interdental brush would just be too harsh. But as I said, generally harsh is good in terms of really getting in there and digging into wherever there is that inflammation and bleeding to get whatever is stuck in there out. That's the point. Sorry, maybe I didn't explain that. Why would you want to get into there when it's bleeding? Because it's probably bleeding because there's an infection. It's probably an infection because some food debris is stuck in there. So you want to really dig in there to really clear it out, make sure that there's nothing stuck in there anymore, and also disturb the whole area of infection. So that's hygiene. If we go back to my original list, so biofilm, a lot of the essential oils just mentioned that's in Uncle Harry's will also disrupt that pathogenic biofilm. So there's certain foods that will do that as well. Quince is one example of fruit. If you eat quince, you have this dry taste in your mouth. It's because it's really like breaking down the whole biofilm. But yeah, I mean, that's not easily available. Toothpaste with those essential oils will do that. I talked about, alkaline mineral substitutes, but the whole issue of why do you not have enough alkaline minerals in your teeth is a big one that I probably won't get into in this episode because it's such a big one. But I would say refer back to our episode on detoxification specifically. But there is another aspect of it. So you either don't have enough alkaline minerals in there because the alkaline minerals are busy, or you don't have enough alkaline minerals in there because you don't have enough alkaline minerals in your body in general, right? And so in terms of the latter, that's easily resolved by consuming more alkaline minerals. So for tooth health, I would go, so it's not just about bathing your teeth in calcium toothpaste, it's also about actually eating calcium, right? Now, There's some, controversial. The highest calcium food by far is dairy, right? Some dairy, like milk, for instance, has a lot of sugar. Sugar can cause, bacteria to grow. So there's a whole thing about, dairy isn't necessarily good for your teeth. Other people say, if you have a lot of milk, for instance, it's a lot of sugar, and then your body actually robs calcium from your bones to neutralize it, and so it isn't good for your bones at all. I'm not 100% sure about that, but at least in terms of your teeth, it's a bit like good and bad, right? You got the good calcium, but you got the bad sugar. When it comes to cheese, that's more of a tooth healthy food, I would say, because it tends to be very low in sugar, and also because cheese tends to be one of the highest sources of a nutrient that, in terms of what most people eat anyway, of a nutrient called vitamin K2. And vitamin K2 is one of the most important nutrients when it comes to the health of teeth and bones. In fact, Weston Price, who I mentioned earlier, the dentist who traveled the world, he, as I said, decided that it was nutritional differences that made a difference. Oh, I didn't quite address that, why I didn't 100% agree with that. Because the understanding that's come about these days is that, yes, it is the Western diet that causes that crowded teeth situation, which is why orthodontists are so much more necessary for us in the so-called developed world versus indigenous people. But it's not necessarily only lack of nutrients like Weston Price thought. It's, in fact, from what's understood these days, it's mainly the amount of allergic reactions we have to the food that we eat, causing our sinuses to be more blocked, causing us to breathe more through our mouth, causing our jaw to grow in the wrong way. So mouth breathing is not only a bad idea once you're in this mess, it may actually also be the cause of the mess in the first place. So the idea being the people eating the indigenous diets, yes, they got the nutrients that they needed, like the vitamin K2, which we'll talk about in a sec, but it's actually probably more that they didn't have the allergens in their diet, and so they carried on nose breathing, and so they carried on having a mouth bathed in alkaline minerals in terms of tooth decay, but also there's something about breathing that way that means that you hold your palate in a certain way that basically means that the jaw grows differently. I don't understand it in enough detail to really explain it well. Again, James Nestor does explain it in his book, Breathe, and there are actually many other people who've got into that. As I said, this is not really alternative. This is the mainstream understanding, or one of the mainstream understandings these days about what causes the misalignment of the teeth and the jaw. So if you Google, I guess if you Google or if you look up, you can quite easily find more information on how that works. But basically, not breathing properly, breathing through the mouth instead of the nose, because of the things that block the nose that are in the modern day diet, then causes this misalignment of the jaw in children where it grows too thin, and it's all to do with the airways and the sinus cavities being blocked and all kinds of stuff. I can't quite remember it enough to explain it properly, but that's the current understanding. But I do think Weston Price was kind of right about the nutrients. It does make a difference as well. So I'm a big fan of vitamin K2. It is the only vitamin that, it's the only fat-soluble vitamin that a toxic limit has not been found to it. So the general recommendation is like 100 or 200 microgram a day. But there was a study in Japan going on many years where they were giving people 45 milligrams a day of a certain form of vitamin K2, the MK4 form, which is naturally found in animal foods. And there was only beneficial impact, pretty much no negative effects. So we can have a lot of vitamin K2, at least the MK4 type, and that's been proven to be extremely safe and beneficial. And that was actually marketed as a pharmaceutical drug for reducing arterial plaque, that dosage of vitamin K2. So it has that dual benefit. It both pulls calcium out of places you don't want it, like plaque in your brain and in your arteries and kidney stones and all the rest of it. It pulls it out of where you don't want it, but it also puts it where you do want it, which is your bones and teeth. So big fan of that. I would say, consider having reasonably high doses of vitamin K2. Many times you want to have it with D3, the type we sell is with vitamin D3 as well. But, I would do blood tests before taking large amounts of vitamin D3. You don't have to do that with K2. So even if you're in a position, because I see this where people are like, oh, I don't need D3. My blood test said I don't need it. That's fine. Don't take it then. But have K2 probably still anyway. It's really, really beneficial. So Weston Price, yeah, he when he did his studies, K2 hadn't been discovered yet, but he was always looking for this missing ingredient that, like, he felt that there was this nutrient that hadn't been discovered yet, which was key to this, and it ended up being vitamin K2. And vitamin K2 is basically especially in fermented foods. And if you have a really, really healthy gut microbiome, your gut will produce some of it itself. But again, most of us do not have a very healthy one. And so, yeah, cheese is the most commonly eaten fermented food. But, you know, sauerkraut and famously natto, the fermented Japanese soy product, is like really high in vitamin K2 as well. So, yeah, cheese has that benefit of being both high in calcium and vitamin K2. And some people need more than others. Like in my genetic reports, it shows I have an elevated need for K2 and an elevated need for calcium. And I don't have cheese anymore for other reasons, but I can see why I used to love it, because it gave me these two nutrients that I really needed. So now I just supplement with both and it's fine. And I don't feel that need for cheese anymore. But anyway, so K2, calcium, magnesium. Oh yeah, so calcium, you can also supplement, right? There's calcium carbonate is okay, but I prefer like a calcium citrate ideally. Calcium citrate is one of the most alkalizing things you can take. The citrate is also alkalizing, so calcium citrate is pretty cool. You can also take calcium lactate and even calcium hydroxyapatite. I believe you can take the bone and tooth form as well. And of course, if you want to go natural, you can eat bone meal, which is ground up bones. If you don't want to have dairy, that would be the other big calcium naturally source. Magnesium, I've talked about many times before. My favorite magnesium is magnesium glycinate. One of the few things I seem to recommend in these podcasts that we actually sell when I feel younger. So get it from us if you're going to get it. But yeah, it's the best absorbed form. And I've tested that. I've tested, I did an episode recently before and after test results. And I finally managed to get my magnesium levels up to where they should be. And it was by taking a lot of magnesium glycinate. So that really does seem to be the best absorbed form. And glycine has loads of its own benefits as well that we've talked about in previous episodes. So calcium, magnesium, boron is another one that is important for getting the calcium and magnesium in the bone to form correctly, and the tooth as well. So that's a mineral that you may want to consider supplementing if you don't get enough in your diet. And then silica is one that some people talk about. This is much less mainstream, but some people say that silica is very supportive for the health of the bones and teeth. And so silica is not found that commonly in foods. There's certain foods that are high in it. Okra is one of them. I think peppers, cucumbers, a few things like that. But some people like to, supplement. I use this stuff called BioSil, which is like a liquid form that I add to my water, because it basically makes anything added to kind of smooth taste. So Fiji water, one of the reasons that a lot of people like that is because it's high in silica. It makes your water taste more smooth. And silica has a bunch of interesting properties that, I'm not expert enough in, but I'd like to do an episode at one point with an expert on silica who can explain all the interesting things it can do. It can even help to detoxify certain toxins and stuff. So I always add silica to my water for taste and health purposes. And yeah, those are the main ones that I would really focus on for bone health. I just quickly want to talk about strontium. Sometimes they add strontium these days to bone health supplements, and because they find it in bones. And my understanding is that's as absurd as adding lead to supplements, because you sometimes find lead in bones. It's just a heavy metal. There's no evidence that it's actually essential for human health. My understanding is it's, well-meaning companies are adding it because they think it may be strengthening bones a bit in the same way that fluoride strengthens teeth, but it's also a heavy metal, which is really not a good idea and has no actual, use in the body that has been proven. So I would not have bone health supplements with that in. Just wanted to mention that, as I think it's be my first opportunity in these episodes. So that's, supplement stroke food suggestions. Sugar, highly refined sugar is not doing your teeth any favors, even if you don't think it's so bad from other points of views. We debated that in a previous episode. I personally don't use any simple sugars, but I understand some who do, who say that it's fine or even beneficial, but it's not beneficial for your teeth. So if you're going to have it, clean your teeth afterwards, unless you have voluminous saliva with alkaline minerals, as I always keep saying. Smoking is just a bad idea. That is smoking anything, including cannabis. Cannabis is drying your mucous membranes. It's anything you smoke is, carcinogenic. It's smoke in the end of the day. It's going to have an impact on your circulation to some degree. Is it as bad as normal cigarettes? Sure, maybe not in terms of the impact on your teeth, but it's not great either. So just be aware of that. If you're very concerned about tooth health, or oral health, that smoking is going to counteract that. Vaping, I've not seen the evidence on that because it's not actually smoke, it's a vapor. I think there's other reasons why vaping may not be a good idea, but I haven't seen any evidence that it's necessarily directly bad for oral health. We talked about nose breathing, learning to breathe through the nose. That's really, really important. That is kind of a thing that you want to keep being aware of and correcting yourself until it becomes a habit to breathe through your nose. It worked for me. It's now just what I do, even, as I said, when I'm asleep. So that means it must have become an unconscious habit. And that comes with just, continually correcting yourself until it becomes normal. I'd say the last one I will give is probably the most, the one that is the biggest topic but I'll give the least information about. And that's just, if you have a different chronic disease state going on in your body, that's going to affect your immune system. It's going to reduce the effectiveness of your immune system. It's going to increase your tendency towards systemic chronic inflammation, which will include your mouth, your gums, and it's going to probably reduce the supply of saliva and alkaline minerals to keep your teeth healthy and happy. So while there is a lot of talk about you need to keep your mouth healthy because it can impact negatively the rest of your body, the obverse is actually also true. If you have chronic digestive issues, sinus issues, urinary tract issues, even foot infection, could be the opposite end of the body, it doesn't matter. Any of these things that you have with chronic issues will also have an impact on your mouth. So if all you care about is, how you look and that your teeth look nice when you smile, and otherwise you don't care about your health, or just be aware that every aspect of the health of your body will negatively impact your oral health if it is a chronic issue that is not resolved through the mechanism specifically of chronic inflammation. And I kind of mentioned this earlier in terms of eucharisty, but let me just say in general, dealing with overcrowding of the teeth. If you cannot clean in between teeth with any kind of brush, then that means that there will be decay and infection and inflammation there. So whether it's braces, Invisalign, if you even have to have teeth pulled, from my understanding and experience, it's worth it. It's a last resort, but it's preferable to having that tooth crowding, meaning you have that chronic inflammation.
Fantastic. Beautiful list, Elwin. And now I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to go out and do things more than 3 times a day. I'm really going to be making sure I'm phoning my kids. Hey, have you flossed today? Have you done all the things that you need to do to keep them on top of it now? Which I'll be like, yeah, Mom, but I doubt they will.
Not
start you young.
Not floss. It's pedantic, but it's a distinction. Like the interdental brushes are kind of annoying when you first start, but I actually think they're better. Like flossing is it's kind of a weird thing. It's because it's kind of cutting, right?
Yeah.
It's this little thing.
I do prefer those little brushes because I've got both, depending. But every time after I've flossed, it's almost because I've got quite tight teeth, as we discussed. Spacing was a thing for me, and it's almost like it's going up there, and it's like almost injuring a little bit instead of doing part of the job that it should do. So no, I really do like those brushes a lot. And
again, like as I said, your gums should be as tough as the soles of your feet. So the floss shouldn't be able to damage it, but the reality, of course, is the reality. And so not only are the interdental brushes more effective, but they're also, as you say, less, jarring. They're not like stabbing the sensitive area. Hey, hope you enjoyed that clip from the Rejuvenate podcast. If you want to watch the full episode that came from, just click on the link above. Or if you just want to watch our latest video, then click the link below. And make sure that you subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thank you.